Hey, what's up everybody? Welcome back. Brandon again. Today I want to talk a little bit about lifting technique and why you don't necessarily have to be perfect. Now, take it from me, someone who's been training on YouTube for about a decade. And as part of that, the last 3 years, I've probably filmed every single training session that I've had and put up a training log about it. So I'm hyper aware of my own form, and many of you are too. Number one, because I film it during the process and check to make sure that everything's in focus and I get a decent angle. And I see it again in the editing process. And then thirdly, I hear about it from you in the comment section for a lot of these videos. So there are some certain things I know about my own lifting. Like for squats, I know I don't have the best bar path. I know my knees tend to cave in under heavy loads. I know my depth is questionable at times. On bench, I know that my arch is pretty much non-existent, as is my leg drive, although I am trying to improve those things. And finally, on deadlift, many of you question how I'm still able to walk and talk because I haven't yet snapped my stuff, despite how round my back is. And trust me, I know all these things, both from my own eye and from your comments. And even though I'm actively trying to improve all these, I don't really necessarily let it get to me too much because I'm not super hyper-focused on those small, minute details of my own lifting. And I say this because in the past, this might not have been the case. In fact, because I have so many friends in the YouTube game and I watch so many fitness channels, I've probably seen every single video when it comes to how to bench, how to squat, how to deadlift, tips, tricks, cues, everything. And there was a point in time where I would probably take those and come down to the basement, try to process those really quick and apply them to my own lifting. And it oftentimes led me to be extremely frustrated. Maybe because the cues just didn't seem to work. Maybe I couldn't do them by myself based off of my own build and leverages. And in fact, I would let it get me so frustrated in my mind that I wasn't able to do these things or have an optimal bar path in some instances that I would get frustrated enough where I found it impacting my own training sessions where I wouldn't enjoy training, I wouldn't enjoy filming, I wouldn't enjoy making YouTube videos. And in fact, the weights took a hit as well as just because I wasn't motivated to train and I wasn't motivated to lift and my physical exertion just wasn't what it should have been. So even though there's a ton of great information out there, I think it's really important to kind of take a look at not being perfect and not focusing so much on some of the minor details. Now, obviously, if you're a beginner lifter, it's good to focus on the basics. However, as you get more to an intermediate and advanced level, I do think it's important to also have a little bit of a personal bias when it comes to this because not everything is going to work for everyone. In fact, a couple of years ago, I made a couple of videos called what works best for me. And I did this for each main lift, bench, squat, and deadlift. And I just talked about the different cues or the different applications that I found to be beneficial for someone like me. In fact, I think I might actually end up redoing those videos because some of those things have changed. And even though, as I mentioned, I'm trying to really change some of these small details, I'm also not going to just get too wrapped up in it. I kind of try to relate it to if you've ever been in a relationship. And if you haven't, sorry, it probably explains a lot about why you're watching some older man in his basement. But as part of that, maybe you've been the person or you've been dating somebody who is way too overanalyzing of your relationship in every single move and always asking things like, are you okay? What's wrong? What's the matter? So much so to the point that it gets really annoying and it's probably a telltale sign that that relationship isn't going to last. Now, unfortunately, your squat, bench, and deadlift can't talk back to you, but it's kind of the same thing in my mind where if you're really hyper-focused on the small details, you miss out a lot on the overall picture, which should be to improve the amount of weight you're lifting, being effective, and being healthy as well. And I think if you focus on some of the small details so much, you're going to get extremely frustrated. In fact, I deal with a lot of people that DM me on Instagram asking me to look over their form, which I don't mind, by the way. But when they're really hung up on some small detail, like maybe their heels coming up a little bit on squats, so much so in fact that they refuse to bump up the weight until they can really nail it down, it's kind of disheartening because even when you take a look at some of the world's top lifters, like Ray Williams, for example, take a look at some of his 1,000-pound squats. Take a look at anyone's top lifts. You're going to have form breakdown. And again, I think it's important to kind of stick to some of these guidelines. And if you can control certain things in training and just be aware of it, then they will improve over time. But if you're so dialed into the fact where that's you really perseverate on them until they're better, you more than likely will have a bad time mentally, which again can take a toll on you physically. So hopefully that helps some of you out there. Again, it's important to improve and you should be trying to actively be more effective and efficient in lifting, but sometimes optimal isn't always practical. In fact, even if you had the straightest bar path or the most neutral spine when you're doing a certain lift, does that really make that much of a difference in the long run if you're pretty close as is? In my opinion, it doesn't, and it can hamper your lifting more than it can help it. So hopefully that makes some sense. some food for thought at least. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. In the meantime, as always, thanks for watching, and we'll talk to you next video.